We're working on problems 19 through 23 for the trig review for test 1. If you're looking at your study guide, you see these two problems, these two triangles drawn. They've labeled the sides. They want you to find the secant of 30 degrees minus the sine of 45 degrees. You know that secant of 30 degrees equals hypotenuse divided by adjacent. You know that sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. You have to think about how the 6 trig functions work. We know that cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. That's why we know that secant is hypotenuse over adjacent. In this problem they're saying find the secant of 30 degrees. So here is my 30-degree angle. The secant of that is the hypotenuse, which is 2, over the adjacent side. And the adjacent side, remember, is the side that touches the angle you're talking about. So that is square root of 3 minus the sine of 45. The sine of 45, if we're looking at this triangle, is 1 over the square root of 2. Secant of theta is 2 over the square root of 3 minus 1 over the square root of 2. They want this an exact value answer. They want these two fractions combined. Step 1 is to rationalize your denominators. You have the square root of 3, the square root of 3. 2 times the square root of 3 over 3 minus, we multiply by the square root of 2 and the square root of 2, we have the square root of 2 over 2. To combine these two fractions, we have to get a least common denominator. If you're looking at 2 and 3, you know 6 is the least common denominator. 3 goes into 6 2 times. Put that 2 right over here. 2 times 2 is 4 times the square root of 3. 2 goes into 6 3 times. Put the 3 right here, and you have minus 3 times the square root of 2. Final answer, 4 times the square root of 3 minus 3 times the square root of 2. Number 20. Theta is an acute angle, and sine of theta and cosine of theta are given. Use identities to find the indicated value. They're telling you that sine of theta is the square equals 6 over 5. All of those things that were listed on page 1 of your test are important. Those 6 trig identities you have to know in order to be able to do the rest of this, to be able to do any of this test. Number 21. Use an identity to find the value of this expression. Do not use a calculator. Sine squared of 40 degrees plus cosine squared of 40 degrees. I had asked you to memorize the 3 Pythagorean identities. One of those is sine squared of theta plus cosine squared of theta equals 1. So as long as these are both the same angle, the value of this expression is 1. Final answer, 1. You know that because you know this Pythagorean identity. Number 22. Find a cofunction with the same value as the given expression. Remember that we said sine of theta equals the cosine of 90 minus theta. We said that secant of theta equals the cosecant of 90 minus theta. And we said tangent of theta equals the cotangent of 90 minus theta. These are all cofunctions. So given that information, when they ask me to find the cosine of 79 degrees, the cofunction of the cosine is sine. That would be sine of 90 minus 79. Final answer, sine of 11 degrees is the cofunction of the cosine of 79 degrees. Number 23. Use a calculator to find the approximate value of the expression. Round the answer to 2 decimal places. They want me to find the secant of pi over 5. Turn your calculator on. Hit mode. Be sure that you have that calculator in radians. After you've changed it to radians, if it wasn't already there, do second quit. You've got to know the inverse function for secant because we don't have a secant key on this calculator. We know cosine is the inverse of secant. We want to find the cosine of pi over 5 and then hit X inverse key. So here we go. Cosine, second housetop gives me that pi, divided by 5, close parentheses, X inverse, press enter. Round that to 2 decimal places, 1.24 is your answer.